The night was colder than usual, as rain tapped against the glass walls of the penthouse office. Ethan Cole sat at his desk, papers scattered everywhere, his tie loosened, his patience gone. He was one of those men the city admired and feared, a single dad running a billion-dollar company with the precision of a machine. But tonight his precision had failed. His son Liam had a fever, and his regular babysitter had just texted. She couldn't come. He groaned, rubbing his temples while scrolling through, his contacts barely looking as he hit dial on a number saved under emergency babysitter. The phone rang twice before a calm voice answered, "Hello." Ethan sighed in relief. "Thank God you picked up. My son's sick and I need someone right now. Can you come to the penthouse in an hour?" There was a short pause on the other end, before the woman replied softly, "I'll be there soon." An hour later, the doorbell rang. Ethan opened it, still holding a glass of water in one hand, and stopped cold. The woman standing there wasn't the one he expected. Her hair was damp from the rain, her eyes calm but sharp, and her face one he'd tried to forget years ago. Mia Hart. She looked just as he remembered the woman he once loved and lost. Her breath caught. "To Ethan," she whispered, almost dropping her bag. "I thought you were someone else." He blinked. "I thought you were my babysitter." She frowned, looking past him at the little boy lying on the couch, bundled in blankets. "Wait, this is your son?" He nodded. Slowly, yes, and apparently fate has a sense of humor. For a moment neither spoke. Then Mia knelt beside the boy, checking his forehead with gentle hands. Ethan watched silently, her touch soft, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't need to talk much. Little man, I've got you covered." Liam blinked up at her with sleepy eyes and whispered, "You sound like my dream teacher." Ethan turned away, his heart pounding, realizing that the woman he'd once let go had just walked back into his life because of one wrong call. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to say. Mia sat beside his son, softly humming, while placing a cool cloth on his forehead. Her movements calm, her eyes focused. She hadn't changed her kindness, still quiet and effortless. Liam drifted to sleep within minutes. Ethan watched from the kitchen, trying not to stare. She finally looked up, catching his gaze. "You can stop hovering." "I've handled fevers before," he cleared his throat. "Right, sorry, old habits." She smiled, faintly, still the same way that used to undo him completely. When she stood and walked toward him, the room suddenly felt smaller. Ethan managed a quiet, "I didn't know it was you." She folded her arms. "I figured that out when you called me the wrong name." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I meant to call another Mia." She raised an eyebrow. "Of course you did." He chuckled awkwardly, but she didn't smile. Instead, she asked softly, "How long has it been since you've actually taken a break?" He shrugged. "Years, maybe." She tilted her head. "That's not healthy." He smiled bitterly. "You always said that." Silence hung between them, thick with all the words they'd never said. He finally asked, "So what are you doing these days?" She replied softly, "Teach music at the community center. Mostly kids like Liam." He blinked. "You're still teaching?" She nodded. "Some things are worth staying for." He studied her face, the warmth in her eyes, the steadiness in her voice. He remembered every reason he'd fallen for her. Before he could say anything, Liam stirred, calling weakly for water. Mia moved instantly, kneeling beside him, whispering gentle comfort until he settled again. Ethan watched her from the doorway, something in his chest twisting. Maybe guilt, maybe gratitude, maybe both. When she stood again, he said quietly, "I shouldn't have let you go back then." She froze, her eyes meeting his. "Then why did you?" He hesitated. "Because I thought I was doing the right thing." She nodded slowly. "I used to think that too, but sometimes doing the right thing just means doing the brave thing, and you didn't." Ethan's breath caught as she turned away, adjusting her coat. "I'll stay till he's better," she said quietly. "Then you won't have to call anyone else." He nodded softly. "Thank you, Mia." She paused at the doorway. "You're welcome, Ethan, but don't thank me yet." The storm outside raged through the night, while inside the penthouse, everything felt strangely still. Ethan sat on the couch watching. Mia read softly beside his sleeping son, the lamplight tracing the gentle curve of her face. She looked peaceful, almost like the memory he had kept frozen in time, the one he had buried under years of ambition and regret. He whispered quietly, "You," always had that effect on him. She looked up, smiling faintly. He's an easy one to love. He hesitated before asking, "Do you ever think about the past?" She sighed, closing the book. "Sometimes, but not to relive it, only to remember what it taught me." He frowned. "And what did it teach you?" She met his eyes. That love doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. Hers softened, and sometimes it waits for people to grow brave enough to find it again. Her words hit him harder than he expected. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "I wasn't brave, I was terrified. I thought love would make me weak." Mia shook her head. "Love doesn't make you weak, Ethan. It just makes you honest. That's what scared you the most." He exhaled a shaky breath. "Maybe. You're right, I always am." She signed lightly, her lips curving with a hint of playfulness, the same spark he remembered from years ago. They fell quiet again, the only sound the rain tapping against the windows. Mia adjusted the blanket over Liam, then turned to Ethan, her voice soft. "You've done well with him. He's polite, gentle. It means he has a good father." Ethan's throat tightened. "I try, but it's hard without her," he said. Mia nodded. "I know." She paused, then added, "He has everything. He needs except someone who reminds you you're more than what you lost." He stared at her, unsure what to say, and for a long moment they simply sat in the glow of the lamp. Two people who once broke apart, now sharing silence that didn't hurt anymore. Finally she whispered, "I should go home." He stood quickly. "I'll drive you," she smiled. "You shouldn't leave him alone." Ethan shook his head. "He's safe with me. But I'm not sure I'm safe with myself if you walk away again." Mia froze near the door, her coat half on her hand resting on the knob. Rainlight flickered across her face. She turned slowly to look at him, his voice low, raw from years of things unsaid. "You walked into my life again because of one wrong call. Maybe it wasn't wrong at all," she whispered softly. "You think fate redials for people like us." He took a step closer, close enough to see the shimmer of tears in her eyes. "I think fate never hung up in the first place." She laughed quietly, shaking her head. "You always were dramatic," he smiled. "I had to be to keep up with you," she sighed finally, letting go of the door and stepped closer. "I came here tonight because you needed help, Ethan, but maybe I needed it too." He reached for her hand gently, their fingers brushing warm, and, uncertain, she looked at him for a long time before whispering, "You still make everything complicated." He smiled. "You still make everything worth it." Behind them, Liam stirred sleepily, his small voice breaking the silence. "Daddy." She turned instantly, her instinct still natural and kind. Ethan kneeled beside his son. "It's okay, buddy. I'm right here." Liam looked at Mia and smiled weakly. "Is she our new babysitter?" Ethan glanced up, meeting her eyes, then smiled softly. "Yeah, kid. Something like that." Mia laughed quietly, shaking her head before tucking the blanket tighter around the boy. As the storm eased outside Ethan and Mia sat side by side again, not as strangers, not as broken pieces trying to fit, but as two people who had finally stopped, running from what they both still felt. She rested her head on his shoulder, whispering, "Maybe some mistakes are just miracles in disguise." He smiled, closing his eyes. Maybe that's what this was from the start. One wrong number that finally called the right person home. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.